High school. I met with the 8th graders to discuss classes for freshman year next year. So I thought I would make a video for parents to be able to watch to answer any questions that you may have, and then also provide my contact information if you were to need to get a hold of me for anything. And so we kind of started off talking about our office team. Mrs. Cooper is our attendance secretary here at the high school. She also takes care of all of our sports packets, doctor's notes, parents' notes, things like that. Mrs. Schneider is our bookkeeper here. She takes care of lunch payments, sports fees, anything money related, also any Chromebook issues that come up. Mrs. Schneider is the one to take care of that. Mrs. Fricky is our principal. Mrs. Hickey is our school nurse. I am Miss Hinson, the school counselor. We also have Mrs. Mott here in the building, who is our student services coordinator. She kind of assists myself, the teachers, the students, whoever needs help with things. She assists kind of everybody, making sure that we're all taken care of. And then we also have Sergeant Ferris, who is our SRO here at the high school and the grade school, that he's here to help students. He also goes into driver's ed a couple times each quarter to talk to students about different driving issues or expectations and things like that. But he is here also to help students and work through any issues that may come up. The required classes for our freshmen. Every single freshman will take English 1. They will either have Mrs. Selinger or Mrs. Whitwood. If the student has an IEP and it indicates that they are in an inclusion English class, they will take it with Mrs. Whitwood. Everyone else will have English 1 with Mrs. Selinger. All students freshman year are required to take a science class. They will either have life science, physical science, or biology. Those are taught by Mrs. Clark and Miss Zener. The recommendation for math and science were made by your students' current math and science teachers. And so if you have any questions about math or science placement, please contact Miss Payne, Miss Tarrant, or Mrs. Wright, or Mrs. Allen over at Zion if you have questions about the class that your student was recommended for freshman year. All of our freshmen will take world and national events with Mr. Clark. The 8th graders at the grade school also have him this year as part of their rotation here at the high school during 7th hour. And so they will all have met him by the time, most of them will have met him by the time the school year ends. But he is our world and national events teacher. Math, they will all have Mr. Copley, unless they have, again, indicated in their IEP that they are in a pull-out math class. They will have Mrs. Mercer for math then. And then PE and health, Mr. Dybert is our predominant PE teacher. Miss Cameron teaches PE, but she also teaches health. And so they'll have her for health freshman year, they'll have Mr. Dybert for PE. If students fail a required class, so any of the classes listed on this screen, they have to repeat it. There are certain classes that students have to take in order to be promoted in high school and in order to graduate. And so if any of the classes on this screen your student does not pass, they will have to retake either in summer school or their sophomore year. Because again, they have to pass these classes, they have to take these classes, and they have to retake them if they do not pass them freshman year. Some of the math classes, when your student got their sheet, were not highlighted. Miss Tarrant had not provided me math recommendations prior to meeting with the 8th graders. And so I informed the students they will need to talk to Miss Tarrant about what math class they should be in next year. So if you have questions about your student's math class and they have Miss Tarrant this year, please contact Miss Tarrant about what math course they should be taking next year, since that information was not provided to the high school prior to meeting with the 8th graders. Driver's Ed. Everyone's always excited for Driver's Ed. Students will take Driver's Ed either freshman or sophomore year. Mr. Hewitt is our teacher. They will take it as soon as possible after turning 15, with the exception of March, April, May, and June birthdays. Driver's Ed is a required class, so again, if they do not pass it, they will have to retake it, but we very seldomly have an issue with students not passing Driver's Ed. The students who will take it before they turn 15, so for instance, our June birthday students, they'll be able to take it 4th quarter since they have to have their permit for 9 months in order to be able to get their license. We do allow June birthdays to take it, but they still cannot get their permit till they turn 15. So they'll take the permit test with Mr. Hewitt during Driver's Ed, but they cannot get their permit until they turn 15, so that you will then be required to go to the DMV to pick up their permit if they do not receive it in class. And so any students who receipt who turn 15 after the class is over or after permits are distributed will have to go to the DMV. I believe it's a $20 fee for their permit to get their permit before they can start driving. But once they have their permit, they can start doing their driving hours with the parents or anyone over the age of 21, and then they will drive with Mr. Hewitt during next school year, during their sophomore year of high school. If your student has a July or August birthday, it will not be 15 till like the beginning of next school year, the following school year. They will take it first quarter their sophomore year and then get their permits, do their driving hours, all of that stuff with Mr. Hewitt. If you have any specific questions about driver's ed, please contact Mr. Hewitt. His email address is on our website, Mount Pulaski High School, and he will be able to answer any questions that you have. Our electives, freshmen have a limited number of electives they can choose from. When they got their course sheets, there was a sheet stapled to it with the freshman electives. Those are the only electives that they can take as freshmen. And so whatever's listed on that sheet attached to their course sheet, those are their electives to pick from. They cannot take anything other than those classes because, again, we do have a limited number of electives for our freshmen, but anything listed on that sheet they can take. I do ask that they be mindful of the requirements. For Spanish 1, for example, they have to have had C's or better in ELA and reading in order to take Spanish 1 as a freshman. So if they have not met that requirement, they will not be able to take Spanish 1. But we have ag, we have industrial occupations, band, art, family, consumer sciences. We have a nice variety of electives. Freshmen get 2 electives, and they'll write them just on their sheet in the little blank boxes provided for them. And I also asked them if they could provide a third alternative just in case their first choices do not work out, and you can write that right at the bottom of their course sheet for the year. But again, the electives that are attached to the course sheet are the only electives they can choose from for freshman year. And so if you have any questions about that, please feel free to contact me, and I have my contact information on a future slide, and so I'll provide that for you here in a minute or so. But please contact me if you have any questions about their courses, their electives, anything like that for next year. Promotion in high school is based off of credits, and this is something that, with it being new to them, can be a little bit confusing. So they will take 7 they have the potential to earn 7 credits every single year. We require them to have 26 at graduation, and so there is a little bit of a buffer built in. So if they fail an elective, they're still on track to graduate, but if they fail more than 1, we start running into problems of not having enough credits to be promoted. So students have to have 6 credits at the end of their freshman year in order to be considered a sophomore. So if a student does not have 6 credits at the end of freshman year and does not participate in summer school, they will be repeating 9th grade and not necessarily having to take English 1 and all of those classes again. They would just have to retake any required classes that they didn't pass. If they didn't pass electives, they can still move on, but they will be behind in credits. And so we really want to make sure we're staying on top of the credits, staying on top of what they need to be doing. Conversations will be had with them if they are not staying on top of their grades during the school year next year by myself or Mrs. Fricky. Mrs. Fricky also sends home weekly emails of students who have failing grades. And so that staying on top of classes, earning those credits really is essential when it comes to high school, because that is how they get promoted throughout all 4 years, is making sure they have enough credits to be promoted every single year. But like I said, they have to have at least 6 credits at the end of their freshman year in order to be considered sophomores. These are all the sports and clubs we have available for students to join. Some of the clubs, as you can see indicated, are for juniors and seniors only, but most of them students can do all 4 years. I do very strongly recommend that your students get involved in something, because when it comes time for scholarship applications, college applications, job applications, things like that, they are more and more asking about extracurricular involvement and community service involvement. And so those 2 things are becoming more and more important with each passing school year. And so I do strongly recommend, if they only want to do 1 thing, great. If they want to do 3 things, great. But I do strongly recommend that your students get involved in something during their time in high school so that they can have things to put on their applications when it comes time to apply for those things. I know it seems a long way off, but high school goes quick. we always hear it's going to take forever, it's going to take forever, when in reality, it actually goes by pretty quick. And so we want to make sure that the students have things to put on their applications and resumes when it comes time to start working on those things and having those things ready. And so these are the sports and clubs that we have available. If you have any questions about any of these, please feel free to reach out to me. And if I don't know the answers, I will direct you either to Mr. Jordan or the coach or sponsor to get you the answers that you're looking for. Just some other information. Again, please have them list one alternative elective they'd be okay with taking. They can just write it right at the bottom of the page. I need their sheets back by February 10th. They can either bring them to me when they come over to the high school in the afternoon. They can drop them off at the grade school office. Either way is fine with me, just as long as we get them turned in. If they do not turn in their sheet, I will pick their electives for them. I don't like picking their electives. I would prefer that they get to pick their own. But if they do not turn their sheet in, we will have to pick their electives at some point. If you need a new sheet, please send me an email just saying my student needs a new sheet. Thank you so much. And I will get them one when they come over here in the afternoon. I do strongly encourage the students to take classes that they want to take. They should not be basing their day around somebody else. They have so many required classes throughout the day, freshman year, that it's very likely they'll have a class or two with their friends. And so when it comes to electives, they need to be picking classes that are of interest to them, not of interest to somebody else because they want to spend their whole day with them. Because as we all know as adults, sometimes friendships end, sometimes relationships end, things happen. And so we want to make sure that students are planning their day based around what's going to be most beneficial for them and make it as enjoyable as possible for them. And so when talking to your students about their classes for next year, please make sure with electives, if they have never expressed an interest in drawing ever in their life, and also they're like, I'm going to take art, I like art, have the conversation with them of why are you taking art, to ensure that maybe they did develop an interest in it, which is great, but to ensure that they're not taking it because someone else wants them to take it. The schedules will come out sometime this summer. I think last year they came out like end of July, somewhere around there. Schedules will be out before school starts. If you have questions about your child's schedule once they are released, please send me an email. Depending on what the question is, I may just wait till I'm back to work to respond. But if it's something that needs like immediate attention, I will respond to it because I do check emails over the summer. But if it's, they wanted art, but now they want industrial occupation instead, like, okay, we'll handle that when I get back to work in August. But again, depending on what it is, you may not hear back from me until I'm back to work in August. Respectfully, please do not reach out to me on my cell phone. Please do not call or text me about student schedules. Please do not contact me via social media about student schedules. Email is the only appropriate form of communication when it comes to student schedules. Like I said, if it's something that needs immediate attention, I will respond. But if it's something that's a pretty easy fix, I will respond once I'm back to work in August and take care of it then. But again, please do not reach out to me on my personal devices regarding student schedules. And then again, make sure you're looking at the requirements for the classes. The only class that really has any requirements is Spanish 1. But with Mr. Watercutty's nutrition classes, they can't take Nutrition 2 if they didn't take Nutrition 1. And so keep that in mind also. Nutrition 1 and 2 are each only a semester, so combined it is a full year class. But just keep in mind that they cannot take Nutrition 2 if they do not do the first semester Nutrition 1. And then Spanish, they have to have had C's or better in ELA and reading. Those are the only requirements really freshman year for classes, and then obviously being 15 for driver's ed, with the exception of some of our later birthdays. So just make sure you're looking at those requirements before signing up for classes. Here is my contact information. If you have any questions, please feel free to call me or send me an email. Email's usually easier because I'm not always in my office. Sometimes I'm in a classroom, or sometimes I'm in a meeting, or sometimes, I have students in here or something's going on. So email really is the easier way to get a hold of me. But also feel free to call. That's totally fine. The secretaries will relay the message to me. But email sometimes is just easier. If you have any questions, again, if you have questions about science and math recommendations, please contact your students' current teachers, as that's where those recommendations came from. Anything else, please reach out to me. I'm happy to help. If I don't know the answer, I will find out who does know the answer and get back to you. But again, or if you have specific driver's ed questions, you can directly contact Mr. Hewitt. His his email address is on the school's website, or you could also leave a message for him to call you back. He's very rarely in the building because he's usually out driving with students, and so calling him, you're almost never going to get a hold of him via phone call. But if you want to send him a quick email with questions, he will get back to you. If you have any specific driver's ed related questions. If anything else comes up, please feel free to reach out to me. I am happy to have a conversation with you, whether on the phone, in person, whichever, you and your student if you prefer. Because I know for some of you, this is brand new. Your oldest is coming into high school, and so you're not sure of the processes and procedures and things like that. So if you have any questions at all, please do not hesitate to reach out to me. There are no silly questions. If you are unsure about something, please let me know. Thank you so much for watching my video. I hope it answered some of your questions. If it did not, again, my contact information is on the screen. Please feel free to reach out to me. Thank you so much. Have a great day.